Hey there, Creekside Life Groups. I'm Jeff Austin. I'm the Life Groups pastor here at Creekside. Thanks so much for joining me for this brand new Life Group series called Elisha, Ridiculous Faith. Now, if this is your first time being together as a life group, congratulations. I am so glad that you've made the decision to be part of this group for this 4-week series. And whether you're getting together for the first time tonight or you've been in a group together for a long time, here are 2 things I know are going to happen in your life over these next 4 weeks. First, you're going to grow your faith in God. As you study the Bible together and talk through the questions in your study and pray together, God is going to grow your faith in Him. Here's the second thing that's going to happen. You're going to grow your friendships with each other. As you meet together each week and be open about your life and pray and support each other, God is going to grow your relationships with each other. You're going to get tight as a group. Now, these 2 experiences of growing your faith in God and your friendships with other people in your life group are really the benefits and the outcomes of your commitment to be part of a life group. So I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing about what God is going to do in our life groups over these next 4 weeks as you meet together for this study, Elisha, Ridiculous Faith. Now, here's the goal of this series. This is the reason why we're doing this series. It is so that each of us would be stretched, so that we would grow to live out our faith on a daily basis. And to get there, we're going to look at a man in the Bible named Elisha. So let me tell you a little bit about Elisha. Elisha was a prophet who lived in the northern kingdom of Israel about 800 years before Jesus. Elisha lived during a time when the leaders and the people of the northern kingdom had turned their backs on God and they were worshiping the Canaanite god Baal. So Elisha's job was to be used by God to turn Israel back to Him. Now, to do this, Elisha needed faith, but not just any faith. Elisha needed God-empowered, courage-filled faith. He needed ridiculous faith. And over the next 4 weeks, we are going to look at 4 faith actions that Elisha did. We're going to learn from Elisha so that we can grow our own faith and be stretched in our own faith. Now, here is a key thing for us to understand. God wants you and me to live a life of ridiculous faith. He wants this to be a regular thing that's happening, where we're exercising faith in incredible ways. What does it look like to do that? Well, we're going to discover together what it looks like over these next 4 weeks. So, to kick things off, here is a really important thing that we need to understand about living out ridiculous faith. Faith begins with a decision. It's a decision to commit, and it's a direction to a direction and an action. Now, let's read that out loud together. You'll see it on the screen. You ready? Faith begins with a decision. It's a decision to commit to a direction and action. To live out ridiculous faith, I've got to decide. I make an intentional decision in my life to commit to a new direction and action, somewhere I haven't gone before, or to do something I haven't done before for God's glory. Okay, so let's dig in and see what this looked like in Elisha's life. Now, to do that, you're going to read about the faith experience that Elisha had when he was commissioned to be a prophet by his predecessor, Elijah. The story that we're going to read shows the decision Elisha made to burn his tools that he used to make a living, to burn his plows. Now, when Elisha did this, God was calling him to break away from his past and really to embrace a new calling in his life to serve God as a prophet to Israel. Now, if you have a Bible with you on your phone or a hard copy, you're going to be taking a look at 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 19 to 21. Have someone in your group read that passage out loud to the group, and then have a look at the 5 questions there in your study that go with this reading. So, you can pause the video now, and then after you've talked through those questions, go ahead and put the video back on, and I'll see you here for part 2 of the study. Enjoy your time together. Okay, welcome back. I hope Elisha's example has inspired you about what it looks like to live out God-empowered, courageous, ridiculous faith. And remember this, faith begins with a decision. When Elisha burned his plows, he made a decision to leave his past behind and to move ahead into a new calling that God had placed on his life. Now, for the second part of our study, we're going to look at the life of one of the most well-known people in the Bible, a man named Abraham. Abraham had an amazing reputation for living out ridiculous faith. Here's what we read about Abraham's faith in Hebrews 11, verses 8 and 17. By faith, Abraham obeyed when God called him to leave home and go to another land. He went without knowing where he was going. By faith, Abraham offered Isaac as a sacrifice when God was testing him. Abraham was a man who lived by faith. God called Abraham to leave his home, to leave everything familiar behind, and to set out on a journey. Abraham didn't know where he was going or what the outcome would be. In fact, here is what we read that God told Abraham in Genesis. Leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. And that's Genesis 12, verse 1. And so Abraham set out in faith. He had faith in God's promises to him to show him the way where God wanted him to go. And God brought him to a land called Canaan. It was a land filled with false gods. But there God promised Abraham that he would bless him and that he would use him to be a blessing to the world. And he told Abraham that he and his wife Sarah were going to have a son, even though they were old, and that seemed like an impossible thing to happen. And let me just point out something here. Do you know how long Abraham had to wait for that promise from God that they would have a son? 25 years. A big part of our faith in God and believing in God is being willing to be patient and to wait for his promises to be fulfilled. So God promised Abraham that his offspring would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. And the hallmark of Abraham's life was that he believed God. He believed God's promises, and because of that, God considered Abraham to be a righteous man because of Abraham's faith. Do you remember that famous scene from the movie Indiana Jones where he comes to the edge of a cliff? Remember, Indiana Jones had a huge faith decision to step over that cliff into what looked like an open-air free fall without knowing what was going to happen. And that's a picture for us of genuine faith. Faith will often command you to do what you have convinced yourself can never be done. Faith is stepping out, and it's doing what you believe God is asking you to do, even when you can't see what will happen in the end. All of us who follow Jesus are called by God to live out this kind of faith. We're all challenged to live as Abraham did, venturing each day into the unknown and trusting God for his guidance and provision in our lives. We can live the kind of faith Abraham did because we can know that God is faithful. Okay, it's time now to go to this second part of your study time as a group. And in this next section, you're going to look at 5 characteristics of committed faith. As you read about Abraham's life and his faith example, allow God to speak to your heart about areas where he wants you to stretch, to be challenged to grow your faith. What would it look like in your life to fully trust God, to live a life of ridiculous faith like Abraham did? May God bless you in the next part of your study, and I'll look forward to seeing you for session 2 of Elisha Ridiculous Faith. See you next time.